Hello, everybody, and welcome to panel session organized by Great Green Action and AirImpact at COP28. And today we are discussing on the project level. We will introduce three different projects. We are addressing some of the challenges, what the projects are facing, and then discussing also that how do we solve those challenges so that we can scale the number of projects and make everybody successful. Today we have in this panel, we have Michele Menekon from PAMS Foundation. And then we have Dave Rose from Carbon Click. Welcome. And Annette Carosa from 1MTN. And then Damien Kuhn from Terraformation. Welcome. Okay. So in the beginning, we'll start by going through every project and the responsible person who is involved in the project will be explaining how the project is working and giving more introduction about the project. So Damien, if you want to start with the project, what you are developing.
Thank you. Good. Yeah. Thank you. My name is Damien Kuhn. I'm a forester, vice president of Terraformation. A few words about Terraformation. We are restoring native biodiverse forest in the tropics. We set up an accelerator, the Seed2 Carbon Forest Accelerator, for the forestry team on the ground to get access to capacity building, to seed banks, one of our products, to a software that we developed called TerraWare for project management and monitoring of the project, and to the carbon funding. And this is the first solution we bring through the accelerator. We run already 2 cohorts. I'm going to speak about one project of the first cohort in Ghana, but just to let you know that we went with the first cohort, we run projects in Ghana, Kenya, and Colombia, and the second cohort of our accelerator was and is focused on Indonesia and the Philippines, and we are preparing the third cohort in Africa again. The project I want to talk to you about is a mangrove restoration project in the Keta Lagoon in Ghana. This is a delta of the Volta River, and we are working with our local partners is Seawater Solution, working with 4 communities to restore wetlands over there. And it's a 2,600 hectares of mangrove restoration using mainly three main species of mangrove over there. And we are at the stage that this project is at the funding stage. It means that we did all the capacity building and a feasibility study. We developed the project document that is now submitted to Vera for the carbon certification. And we are on the FPIC, means stakeholder engagement of the 4 surrounding communities. This is a big piece, this community engagement, because it's where we are, of course, speaking about the benefit of the project, how community will have short, mid, and long-term benefit of the activities of the projects. And we cover not only the mangrove collecting seeds and planting, but of course also the livelihood activities with fishing ponds, community-based fishing ponds, to have income generation really since the first year of the project implementation, as well as honey production. It's a lot of trainings for communities, and as well as creating a community trust fund for sharing carbon revenue, also for collective investment in the village.
Thank you. Maybe over to Annette then, and to Uganda.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for introduction previously, and thank you for having us here. As mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of 1MTN. We are restoring degraded land in Africa by planting bamboo. Currently, we are operational in Uganda. We have finalized 400-hectare plantation. Our project is 10,000 hectares. It's under Vera new methodology. We actually, as a project, we are the most important thing that we are measuring is soil health, and bamboo is just a tool how we are approaching this mission on the degraded land. So meaning our mission is very, very, I would say, important. Of course, not in the region wise. Our work starts in the seedling nurseries. We have to make sure that the capacity is there, that the high quality standards are there, that really the seedling material is on a good quality, so it can solve our needs on a field, really to be a very healthy plantation. As we are using native species, we have invested a lot into the digital solutions. We are coming from Estonia, which is a very digital country, and we want to use these digital tools for us to help get inside understanding which bamboo species in which particular area are the best. We have our limitations because we are using only native species, as I mentioned before. So we have to actually bring this knowledge together with the capacity in Uganda, and that takes a lot of work as well from us as a project developer to really ensure this high quality of the seedling material. And definitely this is the capacity building and also knowledge for the local people, because we are not having our own nurseries. We are pre-investing, pre-purchasing seedlings from the local nurseries. That's the way how we can create a bigger impact. And yes, then we are planting bamboo with the mosaic approach, also implementing biodiversity monitoring practices. We are very, very happy about our teams doing on the grounds. For example, intercropping, also leaving biodiversity sites, planting flourishing trees. And together with the local partners, we truly believe that by the partnership with the local universities, using this local knowledge, we can build up the project with the very high quality data, measurable data. That's the one. Yes, so I'm very happy about how we are doing our project design together with the local partners, and also with AirImpact's help, we can be more successful in the area of reporting really high quality data to the end buyer, because we are here promoting high quality projects which are trustable, accessible for everybody. So yes, that's about it.
So shortly, Anette, when did you start the project?
So our project started this year in April. Uganda is lucky; they have 2 planting seasons. We just finalized in September the 2nd planting season. This is our first operational year, and we are scaling up in the upcoming years because we need to build the capacity of the seedling material as well along the way. As bamboo is sustainable timber, it's actually a very great tool for economic impact as well in the region, where actually the jobs and also educational access to education, there are a lot of things that the local communities are fighting. So we see that actually bamboo as this tool can create a much bigger value than only from the environmental perspective, but also for the impact for the communities. Yes.
Thank you. And Dave, let's first go to Michele, and then we'll go to Carbon Click, and you can explain us what is Carbon Click. But first, Michele, if you can explain what kind of project you are developing in Guru Mountains.
Hello, everybody. And we are developing a project in close to one of the Eastern Arc Mountains, which is a chain of 13 mountain blocks in Tanzania, a very ancient chain of mountains with very ancient forest, relatively small in size, but among the richest forests of Africa, especially in terms of endemic species. So we see these forests as little jewels, and because the biodiversity is outstanding, and in the last 300-400 years, it has been calculated probably between 70 and 85% of the forest cover are being cleared. And what we are trying to do is, in collaboration with the local communities, to bring part of this forest back. We have selected that place for specific reason, because is farmland, it's a subsistence farming, is very close to the natural forest, to protected areas, and it's at the right elevation. The villages are close, so means that the people who come to work in the project, they just walk into the project, so there's no need to move people to different places. Is their land, and they know the forest very well, with all the issues related. There's poaching, illegal logging, encroachment, which of course are driven by necessity. So, and of course we see the carbon now the project is in its way to registration. So far is a tree planting project, and we have started about a year and a half ago. But we see the carbon market just as a tool. I mean, the place where the money comes from, and maybe there will be more tools in the future. We try to have like an holistic approach. Basically, all these people, I mean, the community we work with are just an example of many communities in the world. They have seen trees, acquiring value after being cut, because you can sell the planks and the wood. So the attempt is actually to turn this into a new paradigm. So the trees are actually valuable when they stand, when they are alive. Means also understanding the role of the trees, and the role of the trees also in restoring biodiversity, means the role of biodiversity. And of course, a good thing of this project, both a challenge and a good thing, is that they last very long. So you can plan your action over a long period of time. The way the project works, very briefly, is completely run by Tanzanians, both the staff running the project and the communities. We use only indigenous species, and as much as possible through seed collected just in the nearby forest. Also because all the Eastern Arc Mountains forests are kind of unique as a chain, but they are unique. Each single forest fragment has been separated from the other by millions of years. Means that the tree, even if the species name is the same from one mountain, has a certain degree of genetic distance from the same tree coming from another mountain. And there's a lot of local endemics. So we basically we collect the trees on site, the seeds on site, and the idea is to reach about 120 different tree species to restore the original forest, actually to trigger the restoration, because the forest itself will restore. And to create a mosaic of different land uses, because of course it must accommodate the restored forest, its biodiversity, farming activities for food security, and of course over 40 years a changing society, a changing situation. So we are trying to have an holistic approach and try to accommodate all these variables.
Okay, thank you, Michele. And now, Dave, maybe you could tell us about Carbon Click, and also explain that how do you work with the carbon markets and with the projects.
Thank you. So Carbon Click, we're born out of New Zealand, originally as a spin-off out of the airlines as a tech company. Our founders built the little button that you can see that now a lot of airlines use, where you can offset that flight, and the calculations and placement of carbon behind that. But what we've really become from there is a carbon platform with our own audit methodology. So we're buying and looking for the best projects all around the world that are certified already. And what we're doing is we're then re-auditing them against our methodology, because there are a lot of cracks in the different methodologies, even gold standard, which is the best. There are flaws in there, and bad projects end up making it through the system. Not necessarily really bad, but potentially overinflated, potentially lacking permanence, potentially lacking additionality. And what we're looking for is strong projects with good biodiversity enhancement, good social impact as well. I like these stories about, not displacing the villages and so on, but working in harmony with them. as well as obviously the carbon measurement being real and tangible. What the software platform side of things does is it tracks every donation to the, or every carbon purchase to the actual project. So we can see what fees have been deducted along the way, and how much actually ends up impacting financially those developing nations where we are trying to get those financial flows coming through too. And that's the carbon offsetting world is broken. And I know a lot of people are trying to fix it at the moment, but this is the same stance that we came in with. Let's just do it ourselves, fix this with our own methodology. And now we work with a lot of organizations globally, airlines globally, from Formula One to Expo City Dubai here, as the offset partners, and we're able to redirect the flow of funds into far more meaningful carbon offsets.
Okay, thank you. I think it would be good to have one more round on kind of raising up the challenges what the projects are. Each project is facing at the moment, just to kind of give everybody an understanding how complicated and challenges it is to work with the nature. So, Damien, if you want to start.
Yeah. Good. Then let's go back to Ghana in the wetlands and the mangrove. Our partner actually started 1 year and a half ago, and started in one community demonstrating with a pilot plantation, 20 hectares, small scales, just to show concrete things to people around. I think that was a great approach, because one of the first bottleneck is the timing of development. And when you are speaking with stakeholders, especially communities in the village, when you start the discussion, hey, we can do a project together, is great. They are expecting to start tomorrow. And then it's good to explain, this is quite a long process. We need to make this feasibility study. There is this long methodology from Vera or the standard that take quite a lot of time to build and calculate the baseline and so on. Then timing is one important bottleneck. One solution we find good is start to show concrete things as soon as possible for them. The other bottleneck, I would say, is most of the bottleneck are human related relationship. And I will explain. The other one is with all the stakeholder engagement. We need to figure out the land tenure. And you have the modern system and the traditional customary system, and this take quite a lot of time and discussion with the communities to really understand and have a good clarity on the land tenure system. And it's of course depends from place to place. Even in Ghana, where we operate as a project, is quite different when we are in terrestrial forest than when we are in mangrove forest. And this is second bottleneck. And again, we need quite, as a project developer, sometimes to have this discussion with the head of clan, head of family, and to have clarification about the land tenure. Of course, the family, we are bringing value, as you said, with the project, but wetland was, this is the word, it was considered mostly as waste land. Then the community didn't invest in proper land title. Then we are supporting them to go up to the land survey and registration to the Land Commission of Ghana. Again, this is quite a long process. Bottleneck number 3 is mainly with the government. And even if it's, I would say, private development project with partnership, it's private land, it's not governmental land. We are speaking about forest, we are speaking about landscape with many stakeholders involved. And then, of course, the government is one big piece, big party. And then the discussion with them are important, just because there is many type of carbon project landscape initiative. We are focused on the bottom-up approach. Speaking with communities, building projects, government is negotiating with World Bank, with other type of more jurisdictional approach. And then we have to be sure that these two type of approach are very aligned. And that's the third, I would say, bottleneck, just because, again, we need a lot of discussion, explanation, and finding the right way to nest our initiative, project-based, bottom-up, into the national or jurisdictional approach. It involves also quite a lot of technical discussions. We have to have the same monitoring approach. I will not go into this technical discussion, but it's part of the what I call alignment between the different approach in one countries.
Thank you. And Annette, in your project, what has been so far the biggest challenges, and how have you been solving those challenges?
Yeah, so from let's now move from Ghana to Uganda. But from our project perspective, as we are talking about bamboo plantation establishment on a degraded land, I actually see pretty clearly three bottlenecks. First of all, lack of digitalization. Is it e-governance? Is it lack of the digitalization in the land registry systems? So these are the issues that we see that could possibly, if solved, scale up our operationals as well, because this is slowing us down. And we see ourselves as pioneers in digitalizing land in northern Uganda. And is it soil measurements afterwards? Is it the monitoring? So lack of digitalization in the country, that's a huge issue. That could solve a lot of things for us as well. Second bottleneck is definitely lack of seedlings. The capacity still is not there. Bamboo is native, but as it's not commercialized in Uganda, it's still considered as a poor man's timber, and then capacity in the nurseries is not there to meet needs for our goals. And the third one is definitely access to the finance, because nature-based project establishment needs enormous amount of financing in early stages to really build our knowledge, to build a project, and also to establish infrastructure in the right way, because everybody needs to be compensated, and we need to bring the quality and to bring the systems, to build the infrastructure. And yeah, so these are the three ones.
And when we continue to Michele, but then at the same time, I'm ask Dave to start thinking that what would you like to know about this project. So just to give you a little bit time to think about it, let's continue with Michele.
I have to say that if I have to think to proper challenges, which are not necessarily operational, day-to-day activity related challenges, I kind of think what we are probably going to face in the future, near future and far future. So far, things have been, of course, with some challenges, but the normal challenges every time you start something like this, figuring out how to solve the problems that are related to the implementation of a project. For land tenure in Tanzania, there's the possibility to issue customary right certificates for the land use, and we went that way. And of course is all the political buy-in, the social buy-in, and so on. My main concern is how to deal on the long term with the communities. We see the communities as the central element. If the community is happy long term, project will thrive long term. If the community is not happy, if something change, if the benefits are not following, the changes that will happen throughout the duration of the project, there we encounter serious issues. Also, we talk about the project as something that we do, which is partly true, but we are actually modifying a local setting. We are actually introducing new variables in a situation that would have evolved differently, in 40 years, the duration of the project. And I think we have to be extremely cautious in understanding what these variables are going to produce. And And it's not matter of being able to pay the community. That's just almost a technical thing. I mean, from a financial perspective, we have to make sure that we will always have the money to pay the community. But the benefits for the community, they are not just economical. I mean, we have to kind of figure out how to let's say, to contribute, to cooperate with them throughout the long term, to find the right path where the value of trees, the value of biodiversity, the value of the land that has been always, a place where to cultivate and get food, basically, will change over time. And also the understanding on how these things, because the project will thrive, especially in terms of permanence. There's no point of having a new forest, a restored forest for 40 years and then cut it down. So it means that during those 40 years, the forest must have acquired a value that is way beyond the money they've been getting throughout the route. So they have to decide autonomously that forest is going to stay. So I think these are the interesting challenges that we are facing.
Okay, over to you, Dave.
So from our perspective, we look for maximum impact per dollar spent, right? So I guess the difficulty here is governments play a big role with policy in whether they can make it easy for progress in green economies, or whether they make it, or whether they become one of the handbrakes to actually progressing that. As you say, one of the barriers to success is the third barrier that you come up with, Mikhail. So that's one of these things that we urge our developers to go to, is make it easy for us, because when you need so many people involved in actually getting a project off the ground, what that becomes is a situation where 80% of somebody's carbon offset dollar is going to stakeholders along the way, and 20% is actually making the impact at the tail end or reaching the communities at the tail end. And that is a big problem. And it has been overcome in many governments where they have legislation that supports this. Costa Rica, for example, where one of the national goals is to reforest the country and turn it back into a biodiversity hub. So all of the legislation points towards how can we encourage this. It makes it easy for somebody like Carbon Click to come in and say, right, we know we can buy carbon credits out of Costa Rica. We know exactly where the money goes. We know it's really easy with low consulting costs and so on to be able to get those projects approved, supported, and we reforest it quicker. That's the one of the biggest challenges. Second biggest challenges in the voluntary carbon markets, getting those standards organizations to sort themselves out. And they have all agreed to, I think 3 days ago, you had SBTI, the Science-Based Target Initiative, you had the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, you had ICVCM, International Council for the Voluntary Carbon Markets, and so on, all come out saying this is the minimum standard that we're going to accept globally. If you want the projects to be aligned, ICVCM, ICROA certified, and so on. So then all of the major, the ACR, American Carbon Registry, Verra, Gold Standard, all came out with statements saying they were going to align to that. Now, that's about as useful right now as the, Bill Gates and all those guys standing up saying we've mobilized $58 billion for climate finance in the first 3 days of COP, because that kind of statement has been happened in the past. And what does mobilized mean? Promise to mobilize, or does it mean it's actually sitting in an account somewhere? And so announcements like this in the carbon markets don't mean a lot until we actually see them flow into the standards, and that could be years away.
Yeah, thank you. I think it would be very good to start discussing about the communities and the benefit what the communities are receiving from the projects, because many times community is the center part of what is going to happen in that area in the longer term. So maybe if Jamie, and we start with you, that in which various way you work with the communities, and what are the various benefits the communities getting from the project in short and long term?
Yeah, good. Yeah, as I said, the start of the project starts with committees. This is their land, this is their daily life, and they need to have interest in the short, mid, and long term of the project. And this is part of the community engagement during the design phase of the project. I think you are all aware now that restoring a forest is not only seedling in the nursery and planting trees. That's only a small, really small piece. And the livelihood activities are just key. By the way, it's one of our challenge also for investors. Not all of them are aware about this important impact for the communities, and we still see some of them looking, this livelihood activities, honey production, it's not directly creating emission reductions, and can we remove it from the budget? Then it's a lot. I can understand, but it's a lot of explanation and education also that we have to do to the investor. Then how, and it was one of my first discussions with the head of one of the clan, Likao clan in Ghana. He told to me, yeah, the mangrove were there 30 years ago. We know, we are all fishermen. We know that with the mangrove tree, we'll have more fish. It's a nursery for the small fish, and we know that, but it will be in 10 years. How can we work? How can we live from now, the end of the month, until year 10? And that's we started to see, yeah, how can we get more job and to work especially more with the youth and train the youth of the village to run the nursery, bring them the capacity to have access to this new job we are creating. That's one short-term benefit. The other one, it's where the idea during the discussion with the community comes with the honey. It's still a great value chain. It's the honey from the mangrove is very valuable. There is a market, local market for that. Then the community see that could be great activities, companies creation around the honey production. That's why we put in our design of the project this honey production activities. And the more long term is linked with, of course, the sharing of the revenue of the sales of the carbon credits. We set up this community trust fund. It's basically at the end of the year we sit down again with the committees and see what has been achieved, how the mangrove is growing, and then which part of the carbon revenue can go into the trust fund and for which activities. And we designed some criteria to use for this money. It could be not directly linked to the forest. It could be with the school. For example, the school of this village is underwater 3 months a year because it's on the wetlands, and they need to make some investment to just up the school. Then the money from this community trust fund can support this type of collective investment, and it show also direct benefit for the community. It's how we structured again short, mid, and long-term benefits during our discussion with the committee on how we design the project.
And then Annette, how about in your project? You are working with the communities, and what are the various benefits for the communities?
Yeah, we actually truly believe as a company that community is actually the most important pillar in our project for it to be sustainable in the long term. We are not in Uganda for a few years, we are for a long term. So we need to make sure that we are actually taking care of community, that they are involved, and that we are growing together. We are not giving the fish, we are trying to teach how to fish and to grow together. So we are having like really holistic approach for our community engagement. First, the creating new jobs. That's the first one. Through our biodiversity management practices, together with the local universities, we are opening up the plantations for a training for their students, so they can see new opportunities in the market and also exchange knowledge. With our practices, we also are creating next year piloting community food gardens, meaning we are engaging them a lot in the project operations as well. But we also have our own foundational arm. Certain percentage of our revenues will go directly to our foundation, and we have set some pillars what we really want to promote is access to education, access to the clean water, solar energy, sustainable agriculture practices. But again, for project to be successful, community needs are the first ones. That's why we are engaging a lot and also accessing the community needs assessment, because we want to hear from them what they expect, what they need, because maybe we can put a bridge, but maybe they don't need a bridge. So why to do something what is not needed? So in the end of the day, actually, the center is community in a project and how they can be involved, how they can see that the project is very useful for them in the future. Because yes, we are establishing new plantations. In the end of the day, that amount of tree plantations will also change the environment, and hopefully for a better. We need to make sure that we are creating changes and that's not affecting community in a bad way. And yeah, so engagement.
Then now over to Michele. How common community benefits in Guru Mountain project?
Very similar. Of course, we see the community as the central element. I think one thing that sometimes is not taken enough into account is the way the community receive the benefits. For a long time in the conservation world, the way, to deliver benefits to the community was at the village level for things of like public utility, like building, the road, the school, the dispensary, or which is, of course, is good. But the real change, also in terms of perception, is when the benefits is an individual level. People need to be able to do things that they were not able to do before, sending their kids to school, buying a motorbike, improving their life. And sometimes happen that they have a new clinic, but they are as poor as before. So, of course, if they get sick, they have a cool clinic to go, but they are as poor as before. So, a mechanism needs to be wisely designed in order to make sure that the benefits reach individuals. And of course, engagement at all levels. I mean, village, committees, district, region, complete buy-in, and is a co-working process. We work together, of course, and of course, there's a lot of emphasis in who actually deal with the community. What we always trying to do is to have community people working with the same community, so people from the place. I mean, of course, from the country, but from the district, from the village, they share the same language, the same culture, the same. So as much as we can, we try to do that. Then again, as we said before, this type of project is something new. I mean, because in the past there were either investments like a new rice plantation or conservation project, donors relying on what NGOs say, and we are an NGO, so by the way, so I'm also criticizing my own category and hoping that what they say is true. I think this is a new area, a new thing, because these projects are linked to a market that hopefully will last very long and will grow and will provide more opportunities. And this could trigger really a transformational process in the communities and in the way what the project is bringing: a new forest, more protection, biodiversity, a new way of thinking how your landscape will look like in terms of mosaic of land uses. So it must be. So I think, again, the real challenge is just not to make sure that we produce what we are supposed to produce in order to be financially sustainable, but how we really think in terms of vision. The transformation that is going to happen should work with the community.
So going to the payment part, which was very interesting, in Africa there's estimated that there's 500 million mobile wallets. So basically, after China, more mobile wallets in Africa than anywhere else, basically. And this, of course, gives new opportunities in terms of paying directly to the communities, but it also gives opportunity to show transparently on where the money is going. Have you in Carbon Click, have you been, Dave, looking into this? How does your money flow if you participate on a project?
Yeah, we have, and we've integrated. We've even minted carbon onto blockchain in some cases for companies that want to integrate that with wallets. But really, for us, it's more about the distribution to the project owners and the impact that those project owners have in the immediate community around them. And not just immediate community, but you have some, for example, cook stove developers where you have whole areas where you have high lung cancer rates in females between 50 to 60 years old because of the open fires. Now, so if you can bring in efficient cook stoves or alternatives where they are using 25% of the emissions to boil the same amount of water or to cook their meal, there is a carbon element which is measurable, and that's what we're buying. But really, those social impacts of no emissions in the house anymore, or no particulate in the house anymore, which is causing these high lung cancer rates, this is where we see real social and measurable impact. Within sort of 5 years' time, you start seeing rates start to drop down. You know that you're having real impact and some of these projects really work. Obviously, it's really hard in the first year because it takes a long time to actually see that these impacts are lasting, permanent, and measurable. But with some of those proven methodologies and proven ways of offsetting, like cook stoves, as they mature a decade down the track, we know that those are having a real tangible impact. And the developers that we're working with, they work locally, so they understand how people culturally cook. It's not just pumping 1 million cook stoves out of a mass production facility. It's actually looking at something that will actually get used on the ground in the way that it was designed and last, a long time.
If I asked from each of the project developers that, like Michele, in your project, are you paying directly to the communities, so into their mobile wallets? And how many of a percentage of the community members are receiving money in this way?
I can't say the percentage now, but answer is yes. We pay directly, and okay. In theory, we want to pay them directly into the mobile wallet because it solves a lot of problems, including moving around with some cash could be dangerous, for example. And but there's some issues. For example, in a small village, the little agencies able to give the cash when they ask for the cash after receiving the money in the mobile wallet, usually they don't have that capacity yet because the amount of transaction that I used to process are very little. So there's like a gap in time between when these start happening and when these little agencies in the landscape are really able to provide the cash, because and we are also thinking to help that. So basically to help the local agencies to have more cash so they can provide the money to the people who, after receiving the funding on the mobile wallet, because of course in the day-by-day life most of the exchanges are in cash. Let's say that the goal is basically to pay 100% of at individual level through mobile wallets.
How about Annette, in Uganda? How do you distribute funds to the communities?
So first of all, our project started this year. We have not been distributing funds yet to the communities directly, but it will be distributed through mobile wallet, either through bank account. So in those senses, we of course need to be audited. We are putting a lot of safety measurements regarding community payments as well in the future. So this is regulated by our in-house operational rules as well. And as we are transparent and also, community side, foundational side is of course audited annually, then that could be through transparent mechanism and also trackable. So mobile wallet is very good. We are also looking for the partners who could use a blockchain. We are very pro open source technologies. It can provide really good open source registry for information because it's trackable with all the details in it. And so the regular mechanism banks.
How about Damien? Are the mobile wallets in use in Ghana?
Not yet in our project. I explained this community trust fund is more for community-based investment, and there is the direct payment for the villager. For the moment, we are doing this with cash. But why we are thinking about changing to wallet payment? For two main reasons. One is logistic. It's quite complicated to bring out cash and pay cash, and other for tracking of the money and where the money is sent. That's the two main reasons. It's linked to one of the discussion we used to have with the community in the village, because again we need a lot of discussion with the villager to explain this carbon market. It's not easy to understand for anybody, and in some villages it's also not easy to understand. The way I used to is explaining that we are basically creating a new value chain. In Ghana, there is a lot of cocoa producer. They are producing the second world producer of cocoa. There is this value chain, the producer growing trees, and there is the cocoa from the trees, a buyer, and the end buyer is buying and eating chocolate. With the tree we are growing, I use the similar explanation. You decided to plant and to value your land with planting trees. It's a work for you. It's sequestering carbon, and there is some buyer able to pay for that. It's a new value chain. It's not tangible. You don't have a cocoa in your hand. It's more services that you are providing, but there is people able to pay and to buy for that. The challenge is not to make another unfair value chain. Cocoa is unfair. It's why farmers are not living in good condition because of that. When you buy a chocolate bar, only 6% is going to the farmer. Our challenge, as all stakeholders of this new value chain, is not to create another unfair value chain, and then how to have a fair repartition within all the stakeholders. Everybody are bringing value, investor, project developer, communities, and we need to make sure that it's fair for everybody.
Thank you. And hey, we still have few minutes time left, and I thought that if each of you would highlight three things what the market side, the corporates and the investors should look in a project shortly. So we can start maybe with Michele and then continue from there. Three things what the market side should think when they are looking into project.
Okay, of course, quality. I mean, the problem is how you define that. I would say, for example, in terms of having a fair value chain, of course, one really strong element is how good the policy of the specific country is. And for example, I think in Tanzania, the policy is very good. So it has the local communities at the center. And that's a very good starting point. I would say that the buyers and also the investors, for example, should look at that. And what usually happen is I think, misevaluation of the specific roles, because the investor see himself as a fundamental player, which is, but the value of what he is investing compared to the value, in proportion of what the farmers is putting in the project, which is his land that gives the food for survive. I mean, we should discuss these things. And being fair means that actually, when a policy is considered not to be fair for the investors, because it's fair for the communities, usually is criticized, because they say, yeah, but this will, let investor invest in someone else. Because, so I think the investors and the buyers should understand this, that we are playing with the thing that have the highest value for the people on the ground, way more than some money, is where they base their future, where they come in terms of past and everything they have. So when they decide, okay, let me put some of my land, which usually is like 2 acres out of 3, so it's not, 2,000 hectares. They are actually taking a very critical decision for their survival, and they are trusting the people who are going there. Usually an investor don't put like 70% of everything he has, on something. So I think we should think the proportions of the risk that is taken by the different parts.
Thank you. And maybe I will, because of the timing, I'll correct that one comment on that. What is the most important thing to look into from the market?
I'll be quick with my 3. So the first,
Okay.
the first thing was just the robustness of the project. What is the measurement? That's permanence, additionality, biodiversity, social impact. The second thing is, what is the efficiency of the project? So how much money does it take to get from here to the beneficiaries on the ground? That's where I came to the policy and so on before. The third thing is, what are the conflicts of interest or ulterior motives along the way? So we see in the Amazon, for example, quite a lot of ring-fenced land that is owned by the same holding companies that also own palm, beef, soy, and so on. And they're going and, carving up big blocks of land, ring-fencing and claiming avoided deforestation on the bits that you look, they're steep, hilly, rocky. So they're using an artificial baseline to earn credits from something that was never economic to farm anyway. So are you paying more money to those guys that are going to go and buy more land and ultimately deforest? So that's the unintended consequences. That's the third thing.
Okay, Annette.
Thank you. Yeah, I will be really quick. Speaking with my lawyer hat on, I would say that, of course, we need to make sure that we need to look at the carbon policy. What's the regulations in the country? I think it's actually very, very important to start with. Second of all, how operational team, how effective, how well prepared they are to execute the things that they need to do, how well is established the policies. I have been personally working in a voluntary carbon market for 6 years, and also our project, it has a lot of different things, but it's actually very crucial how we are resolving the disputes. How is the process? How is the risks assessments? Are we having like the right framework for example, bow tie framework to measure our risks and take care of them? So these are the things that actually needs to be executed on a very high level if we are approaching large scale projects. So meaning that needs to be backed by the reporting, by the software. So execution is very important part.
And Damien.
I would say to the investor, when you are looking at the budget, the spreadsheet, that you like the spreadsheets, and you are looking at all the community activities line, livelihood activities, please don't say, it's not generating emission reduction. Can we remove or can we lower this line? No, this is basically the core of the project. And if we are reducing this piece, basically you are taking more risk that the project will fail in a way or another. That's, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I think our time is up. I really hope that the audience got a deeper understanding what is happening on the projects, on how importance of the community and fairness and complexity also what is project developers are facing. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the panelists.